Bandai's most successful on-launch TCG has been One Piece, a game that plays as a sort of hybrid of Bandai's other games. When the game released, I generally liked it a lot. It had some issues, but what game doesn't on release? 3 sets in, and the game is still going very strong. Most issues I've had with the gameplay set 1 have either been addressed directly, or been pushed out of the game by newer strategies and cards. Set 3's gameplay has been a massive improvement, allowing more room for technical play and creative deck building, while still maintaining One Piece's player reading aspects. It hasn't all been positives though. One Piece's attainability and promos have taken a turn for the worst. Red as a color has dominated the competitive scene, despite 2 ban lists and players gearing up against the deck. And of course, events are still hard to get into. But then again, what card game isn't a rocky ride? Mechanically, Set 2 and 3 of One Piece have seen the release of yellow and black as colors, finishing up One Piece's color pie. Black dealing with unit cost and removal, and yellow just being security control from the Digimon TCG again. These new colors have rounded out the game's mechanics, and given much needed variety to the playstyles in the game. I do feel black is a bit undertuned compared to the other colors, especially red, but I would call both yellow and black a success. Other colors also got new gimmicks. Blue gets Nami a mill strategy to complement the turbo value playstyle. Blue cards also get a new set of on-KO cards that open the game up to new control options. Red gets not only a serious set of top-end finishers, but also multiple event synergy gimmicks and even more one-drop searchers. Green gets the film series, a more advanced form of board spam. And purple is kind of the same, but with more tools and alternate routes to play through their strategy. Powercreep and the meta have been developed about as well as can be expected from a new card game. Honestly, outside of Whitebeard and Red's total dominance in set 2 and 3, it's been very well handled. Leaders are consistent through sets. Set 1 and the starter deck leaders all get to come in and out of the meta. New leaders get added in, but don't completely overshadow the old decks and just bring something new. Overall, there's an excellent mix of new strategies and old strategies with new support. If you like a strategy, cards in the main deck can get changed out way more often than leaders. We can look at the win rates from the most recent online regionals and find out that the game is acceptably balanced in terms of a competitive card game. A 60% win rate is extremely strong, but not out of the question for a healthy game. Top results tell a similar story, with 2 red decks taking up more than 50% of the meta, even after 4 cards hit on 2 separate ban lists. Red being overpowered is where 90% of the complaints about the gameplay come from. Personally, I know a few players who left because they got tired of playing against Red, but most general players really don't mind. It's not the end of the world, since most casual fans really like Zoro, and a lot of competitive players think Trafalgar Law lets players show their skill really well. Newgate gets a mixed response from most players, with some liking him and some just wanting to move on to the next meta. Red at the moment has a combination of the best cheap units, great removal, and solid gimmicks. It can get somewhat tiring. Personally, I really don't mind it that much, especially after the ban list. Coming from a Yu-Gi-Oh background, playing against the same few decks over and over again at an event isn't the worst thing ever. Just build your deck with the correct expectations and you'll do fine. Most players at the locals I go to seem to have an unspoken agreement to play literally anything else. The first bit of product news I get to report is that Bandai has mostly fixed product distribution to stores and massively reduced scalping. Big retailers and local game stores alike can consistently get product now. Cards are generally more affordable than ever, outside of secret rares and the absurd price problem with promos. More on that in a bit. Bandai has also had an amazing commitment to alternative arts and special box toppers for each box of One Piece. The alternative artworks in the game are very well done. They finally get to replace the screen grabs of cards like Bonnie and Nami. It does suck if you're poor though. The Wanted line of alternative arts is amazing, as is the new line of special secret rares coming in set 4. Actually amazing artwork. This keeps up the value pulled from boxes and makes product very worth it for the consumer. When I say Yu-Gi-Oh boxes should have more value, this is what I mean. Deck prices overall are mostly very good, typically ranging around $100 consistently. Powercreep hasn't made most valuable cards tank in price after a new set, or in other words, cards do hold value. The only issue I have with card prices, and Bandai's format of printing cards, is how they handle secret rares. In sets 2 and 3, secret rares have been cards that are required to play the new color introduced, typically adding a $30 per card price tag to the newest strategy, regardless of how good they are in competitive play. I don't like locking experimentation behind a paywall, especially for these newer colors. I worry once we get a new strategy that is hard meta, just how absurdly expensive that secret rare will be. I understand that this helps give boxes value, but I'm just not the biggest fan of it. I would definitely still take this over how Yu-Gi-Oh! Handles their boxes. I do have trust that Bandai will handle their secret rares appropriately, but you can understand my apprehension. The much more dramatic issue I'm seeing is with promo-exclusive cards. The event packs, which are only obtainable by going to major Bandai events, such as an online regionals or a treasure cup, have several meta-defining and extremely necessary cards. Event Pack 1 contained Jinbei, who's a 3 to 4 of in every topping Dolphy list. Jinbei is currently going for about $90 a pop, turning an otherwise $40 budget deck into one of the most expensive lists in the game. Event Pack 1 also contained Bartolomeo, which green film decks run at 3 to 4. Bartolomeo is a $70 promo, turning an otherwise $60 to $80 deck into a Yu-Gi-Oh! Level more than $300 price tag. Event Pack 2 contains General Frankie, who is a very powerful tech in Zoro and other red decks. It's currently $50. Luckily, it's not popular at the moment. There are many other options from these packs that just aren't explored as much due to their price tag. We know this is going to continue, as Bandai is currently releasing an Event Pack Volume 3 in Japan. These promos show up in a majority of topping lists of their respective strategies. This is very bad, especially since not all players can make it to big events, especially with these events capped. I will say this once again, do not print mechanically unique cards as promos. All it does is gatekeep the game away from new players, less wealthy players, players with families, players who just don't have as much time for events, players in non-English countries, especially South America, and just anyone who happens to go to these events and just not pull correctly. It's not a box where they can just buy another one. Heaven forbid, people have to go to 4 events and pull perfectly just to keep playing your stupid fucking game. Seriously though, we could put a number on how many copies of these promos exist in the game based on the number of tournaments held where these are surprising. And it is flat out not enough for even a 10th of the One Piece's player base to have a playset of these cards. Never mind the collectors. It's just not okay. Unironically, this promo price creep helped kill Dragon Ball when mixed in with Powercreep. Promo locking cards turns games from what should be a fun time to an unfortunately elitist club that most people will not be welcome in. There will always be a guy at each locals with these promos to 100% optimize their deck to farm prizing. This gatekeeps new and more casual players who will not enjoy losing to options they cannot obtain nor play. I'm not sure, but doesn't this policy go directly against what One Piece as a franchise stands for? The promo situation is made even worse by how hard it is to get into events. Events with 1,000 slots fill up in hours, making it impossible for people who can't stalk the event sign-up forms to play in them. My main job right now is in manual labor, and with my hours, it can be hard for me personally to sign up for these events, and I'm not even the most busy person I know. I can only imagine the impossibility for someone who has really serious work hours to sign up for these events. EU events are doing raffles to get in. This is after they've already doubled the player cap for some events. It's like, fuck you! Don't play our game! There just aren't enough events, and there aren't enough available slots for those events they do have. It's just unfortunate because Bandai is slowly trying to fix these problems, but they aren't moving quick enough to address the issue. The waitlists I've seen are absurd, and that's knowing there are a ton of people who would play in these events, but don't ever try to sign up due to how hard they are to get into. So, how do I feel about One Piece as a whole? Honestly, still very well. The issues I listed above can be solved with a single reprint and change of policy. Event Pack 3 has less unique cards than the previous event packs, which is very good, and we can always just have more events. The question here is if Bandai can continue to develop this game into something long-lasting, especially after the One Piece hype dies down after Gear 5. Bandai as a company are slow to react and to try new things, but I have hope they can handle the game very well and keep pushing it forward. Overall, I would recommend this game to most players. There are a ton of budget options including Red. The game is great casually and the community is as well. Competitive play is fun if you can get into events. Bandai is ultimately just better than Konami, despite having its own unique problems. I've also left some helpful links in the description to get into the game if you're interested. It's some miscellaneous YouTube channels and some good websites to check out. Thanks for watching. I'd like to do more One Piece content, but we'll see how this one goes. The One Piece community doesn't react well to any negative criticism, however valid. I hope they'll listen and start pushing for some changes before it hurts the game. I'll see you guys next time.